You probably believe you're in complete control of your own thoughts and that every decision you make is a conscious choice. But what if I told you science proves otherwise? Your brain constantly pulls invisible strings, influencing your moods and decisions in ways you've never realized. In the next few minutes, we're counting down 10 psychological truths that will expose these hidden forces. What you believe to be true about yourself is about to be challenged. 1. Your memory can be edited. Let's start with your memory. You think of it as a video camera, accurately recording life. The truth is, it's more like a Wikipedia page that you and others can edit after the fact. This is the reality of false memories. Research by psychologist Elizabeth Loftus has repeatedly shown how susceptible memory is to suggestion. In her famous studies, she made people believe they saw a car run a yield sign instead of a stop sign simply by asking a leading question. Even more shockingly, using the lost in the mall technique, researchers planted entirely false memories in people's minds. With a little suggestion, about 25% of participants came to believe they were once lost in a shopping mall as a child, inventing vivid details for an event that never happened. What you remember is a reconstruction, one that can be altered by new information. This means you should treat your powerful memories as impressions, not perfect recordings. During a disagreement, instead of arguing over who remembers an event correctly, it's more productive to focus on solving the problem. Your brain isn't lying. It's just not the reliable narrator you think it is. 2. You are programmed to obey authority. You're an independent thinker. You wouldn't hurt someone just because a person in a lab coat told you to, right? Well, the science says you probably would. In the 1960s, Yale psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted one of the most famous experiments in history to understand how ordinary people could commit horrific acts. He had participants deliver what they believed were increasingly powerful electric shocks to an actor whenever they answered a question wrong. The person in the other room would scream, complain of a heart condition, and eventually fall silent. Yet, when the authority figure insisted they continue, a staggering 65% of participants delivered the maximum 450-volt shock. These results were so shocking they've been retested. A partial replication of the study in 2009 found that people today were still highly willing to obey, with rates only slightly lower than Milgram found. This experiment reveals our deep-seated tendency to obey authority even when it goes against our conscience. The takeaway is to pause when you find yourself just following orders. Ask yourself, if this decision was entirely mine, would I still do it? 3. The power of a uniform. It's not just a person in a lab coat who can change your behavior. Sometimes all it takes is a uniform. The infamous 1971 Stanford prison experiment, led by Philip Zimbardo, showed how much social roles can transform us. Psychologically healthy college students were randomly assigned to be either prisoners or guards in a simulated prison. The experiment was stopped after just 6 days because the situation had become dangerously abusive. The guards quickly became authoritarian, while the prisoners grew helpless and emotionally broken. Today, the experiment is heavily criticized for ethical and methodological flaws. For example, new evidence shows guards were actively encouraged to be tough. Still, its core lesson remains important. The situation you're in and the role you play have immense power to shape your actions. This is why you should be intentional about the roles you step into. Don't let the role define you. You define the role. For you are a natural copycat. Have you ever noticed yourself picking up the accent or mannerisms of someone you spend time with? You are wired to imitate. Psychologist Albert Bandura proved this with his famous Bobo doll experiments in the 1960s. In these studies, kids watched a video of an adult interacting with a large, inflatable doll. One group saw the adult play nicely. Another saw the adult brutally attack the doll. Later, when the kids were left alone with the doll, the results were clear. The children who had witnessed the aggressive adult were far more likely to imitate that aggression, not just copying the exact behaviors, but inventing new ways to attack the doll. This demonstrated social learning theory. We learn how to behave by observing and imitating others. This should change how you view your environment. The people you follow, the news you consume, the friends you keep, they are all programming your behavior. If you want to build a new habit, the fastest way is to surround yourself with people who already embody it. Your brain will automatically start to follow their lead. 5. Your brain has a tiny hard drive. Try to remember this sequence: K, F, B, D, G, E, C, P, F, W, G, A, H, I. Now, recite them. It's tough because you are pushing the limits of your working memory. In a landmark 1956 paper, Cognitive psychologist George A. Miller proposed that the average person can only hold about 7 plus or minus 2 items in their short-term memory at once. More recent research suggests the real number might be closer to just 4 items. This mental workspace is not only small, but information fades away in just a matter of seconds without rehearsal. The trick to overcoming this is chunking. Your brain can't remember 9 random letters, but it can easily remember 3 3-letter acronyms. You've just hacked your memory by grouping information into meaningful chunks. This is why phone numbers are broken into smaller groups. The lesson is to stop trusting your brain to hold on to information. If something is important, write it down. When you're trying to learn something new, don't just memorize it, organize it into meaningful patterns. 6. Good looks can deceive you. Imagine you're shown a picture of someone physically attractive. Do you assume they are also intelligent and competent? There's a good chance you do, and you'd be falling for a cognitive bias known as the halo effect. The halo effect is our brain's shortcut of taking one positive quality and splashing it over a person's entire personality. This was first identified by psychologist Edward Thorndike in 1920, who noticed that military officers' ratings of their soldiers were heavily influenced by their physical appearance. Research shows this happens everywhere. For example, jurors may feel more positively toward an attractive defendant. The danger, of course, is that these assumptions are often wrong. So how do you fight it when you find yourself instantly impressed by someone? Consciously separate the different aspects of their character. Ask yourself, what hard evidence do I have that this charismatic person is actually good at their job? By being aware of the halo effect, you can make more objective judgments and see people for who they truly are. 7. Responsibility fades in a crowd. Picture this. Someone collapses on a busy street. Dozens of people are around. Do they get help faster? The shocking answer is often no. This is the bystander effect. This phenomenon was famously studied after the 1964 murder of Kitty Genovese in New York. Initial reports claimed 38 witnesses saw the attack, but did nothing. While we now know these reports were exaggerated, fewer people witnessed the actual attack and some did try to get help. The case spurred research that confirmed a disturbing psychological truth. The more people who witness an emergency, the less likely any single person is to help, due to a diffusion of responsibility. Everyone assumes someone else will act, so no one does. If you are ever in an emergency and need help, don't just shout into the crowd. Instead, single someone out. Point to a specific person and say, "You in the red shirt, call 911. By giving a direct command, you break the diffusion of responsibility. And when you're in a crowd and see something wrong, never assume someone else has it covered. Act as if you're the only one there. 8. Your brain gets rewired by repetition. If you've ever played a game like Tetris for hours, you may have started seeing the falling blocks when you close your eyes. This is a real phenomenon known as the Tetris effect, and it's a perfect example of how repeated experiences literally rewire your brain. This is a product of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections based on behavior. When you perform a repetitive task, your brain strengthens the neural pathways involved, making that task more automatic. The Tetris effect shows how the brain continues processing these patterns even subconsciously. This has a profound implication. What you consistently do becomes your mental default. If you repeatedly scroll through anxiety-inducing news, your brain adapts to a state of worry. If you practice gratitude, your brain gets better at noticing positive things. This isn't just a nice idea, it's a mechanical process. You can intentionally shape your thought patterns by choosing what you repeatedly expose your mind to. Your habits are the architects of your brain. 9. Your brain can be tricked about your body. You have a powerful sense of your own body. But what if your brain could be tricked into adopting a fake hand as its own? This is what happens in a mind-bending experiment called the rubber hand illusion. In the experiment, a person's real hand is hidden, and a realistic rubber hand is placed in front of them. A researcher then simultaneously strokes both the hidden real hand and the visible rubber hand with paintbrushes. Within minutes, the brain tries to reconcile seeing one hand touched while feeling the other. It creates a powerful illusion, and the person starts to feel as if the rubber hand is their own. This illusion, along with phantom limb sensations and amputees, reveals that your sense of body ownership isn't fixed. It's a constantly updated interpretation constructed by your brain. This should change how you think about physical sensations. Feelings like pain are not just raw data, but interpretations. This understanding is the basis for therapies that help reduce suffering by tricking the brain into updating its body map. 10. The strange becomes normal and you don't notice. Remember the first time you wore a new watch and could constantly feel it on your wrist? Now you probably don't notice it. This is habituation, one of the most fundamental processes of your brain. Habituation is how your brain learns to tune out constant, unchanging, and non-threatening stimuli. It's an efficiency mechanism that stops wasting attention on the familiar hum of a refrigerator, so it can be alert to new and potentially important things. The stimulus is still there, but your brain's response to it has decreased. This is a double-edged sword. You can use it to make good habits automatic, but it can also lead to an unhealthy new normal. You can get used to a stressful job or a bad relationship, no longer noticing how unacceptable you once would have found it. To fight this, you need to deliberately break the pattern. Periodically ask yourself, what have I gotten used to that I need to pay attention to again? A little novelty can keep your brain from becoming dangerously complacent. Conclusion? These 10 facts reveal that so much of what you think, feel, and do is guided by hidden psychological forces. From your unreliable memory to your automatic obedience, your brain operates in ways you might not expect. But understanding these mechanisms isn't a reason to feel powerless. It's the exact opposite. It gives you the user manual to your own mind. By knowing the invisible strings, you can finally start to see them. And once you see them, you can begin to pull them yourself. If you found this video interesting, you will also enjoy this one.